Ladies and gentlemen, roosters and hens, and everything else in between, Caulk Talk is back. And we've got a tough one today. We're going to have to get into some tough details. First off, hi, I'm MBF Express Tyler. Inside joke, sorry.
Hi, Tyler.
And as always, from the Coop Collective, I am Tyler at MBF Express. Our trusty producer, Josh at Grateful Coops.
Yo.
Blake at Waddle Waddle Racing. I'm watching you tonight. And Dave at Pecking Order Racing. We are back in total. And we have some stuff to talk about. So should I even ask how we're doing? Not great. Okay. So
yeah. That about sums it up.
We're here on a Monday.
We are here on a Monday. This is our first Monday, our first show was a Monday. So it's throwing it back to the first show.
Throwback.
All right. So let's rip the Band-Aid off and let's get into it because this is what it's all about. The dev blog didn't have that much in this week. And we did have one nice little thing where the spinning wheel went from 5 minutes to 1 minute. So that started Monday better.
Yeah.
Blake, I think you're muted.
I know. I was.
There we go. There we
better.
go. Gotcha.
Blake just really wanted to talk about the tournament for like the next hour.
Yeah. Thank you to our tech guy Wamola for letting us know.
Actually, that was a shit show too. If you want me to tell you the truth.
What, the spinning wheel?
The tournament.
Though the tournament has been a tough one, and
I mean this has been a pretty.
It's a rough stretch.
It's a rough stretch.
There's August, no way. Yeah.
I mean, I think. Yeah, the tournament's. It's all right. Volume's slow, but
we'll never really know about the tournament and unless we had a proper wheel and a proper wait time.
Right.
But it hasn't.
I would imagine it would have heated up
tell
pretty
you what,
good if the wheel would have been cooperating.
Hopefully, they have some time now to focus on these sort of things to where they can make our day-to-day gameplay better.
Yeah, which is a big part of all
this. We'll get into
this.
that in a minute.
It's a big part of all of this. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're in the chat today. I know this one isn't a fun one. I'll try to keep jokes around. I don't know if I can do that tonight. We'll see.
I mean, let's just get to the elephant in the room.
Does that make everyone feel better? So yes, here it is on the screen. Pretty simple. You got Josh, take it away.
So this was this morning. Well, this afternoon. Land price details were dropped in the Chicken Derby Discord, and it was not at all what any of us were really expecting. Says here land mint in September, blank, and unsure on that date, 0.133 per land. Open for 12 hours from 8 p.m. Eastern, exclusive to chicken holders. There will be 13,000 land FTs available to mint. When you mint, you will be given a random piece of land. Any land remaining after the mint will be used to public mint. At a later date, 4.15 WETH per land. We'll be updating the tutorial between now and the mint to give extra details on the functionality of land farming.
So that's shit. We can all agree.
Yeah, that did not get received well at all.
I actually, when I saw 0.133, did the comical, like, eyes popping out of my head. Like, what am I looking at? I was very taken aback by it.
My first glance, my brain mentally corrected it to be 0.33.
You saw the 3.3. I saw the 3.3.
I saw the 3.3, and I'm like,
the
okay.
one was there, and I was like, what the hell is that one doing there?
Yeah, just snuck up and slapped me.
All right, that's got to be a typo. Keep reading. 0.15. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's not a typo.
Not two typos.
Unlikely. Yeah, like, to say the least, it did not get received well. The community sentiment was not great today in the chat, and it was coming from all sides.
Very frustrating
from devout owners and chicken holders that have been the loud voices advocating for the game to the people that you haven't talked to in months, just popping in and going, "What?" It was kind of a somber time, really, just with everything that transpired today, and we're here to talk about this. We had a Spaces today that White Beat Gang hosted. I think that kind of got a lot of the venting out and some frustrations from people.
Definitely worth your time.
A lot of good things were discussed.
He recorded it.
He did record it. That is on Twitter. You can go back and listen to that. Bunch of OG chicken holders were in there saying what they felt. A lot of good things came from that discussion. And the only thing is that, you know, a lot of us still left that discussion. I don't know if I could put it with a sour taste in our mouth, but just unsure of what to think still on all of this. And there still just seems to be more questions than answers at the moment. And hopefully we can get a little more light on that, or at least we can talk about it tonight and figure out, you know, how do we go forward?
I think here's what I can be pretty safe to say. There's not going to be any land minting in September.
Well, I'm not sure.
If they're gonna do it and change the amount, I think they push it back a little bit further to get more of their ducks in a row. Okay, I think, and before we get into like heavy bashing, shit talk, or whatever you want to call it, I think at the end of the day, this may be better for the long-term game than if land is dropped now. If land gets pushed back even to next year, I think it could be better for the long-term game than if it's dropped right now. Now,
that's what's difficult is there are certainly two sides to this this argument where it's like, are we? And they did give us two options, and I think it's worthy of jumping into that.
Here's the thing: from a current chicken holder, right? I want the land today, because selfish me wants to be able to have a better chance of getting the better land. And I hope a bunch of thousands of people come in behind it and spend all the money and I get to profit off of it. Right. However, that's probably not the most realistic scenario. The best scenario is to build a game up where people come in and then you drop the land. Yeah, there's going to be less of a chance that us current holders, but hopefully that's where the devs can step in and say, hey, those OG holders get one free drop. Right.
Well, you know, a lot of this actually on the after the spaces from White Bee Gang, he did put out Daniel put out a tweet that just said give constructive criticism and retweet. And he was actually doing a Pirates of the Metaverse giveaway to get some feedback. And a lot of the feedback, I mean, I'll get into some of the stuff individually, but a lot of the feedback mimics what you're saying.
The reason why I think
we haven't been rewarded for what we've hung around.
The reason why I think is some of what we were seeing in the chat right now, that the reason why I think that land being pushed back, and this is what I said a few weeks ago, I was not the most excited about hearing a land drop in September, regardless of what price. They could make it 0.01, and I'm still not happy about the timing of it. We're in a bad market right now, first off. So even outside of that, though, the timing of the game isn't right. We're going to get into this here in a minute about how many active people we've actually got in the game. Just to give you guys an idea, it's not a lot. It's not enough to carry us through with 500 pieces of land. 500 stadiums even, right? So if they push it back, that they have to get other things, in my opinion, in line first. The marketplace, we can do breeding without land. You know, we can even start the whole Dr. Drew fusion type burn mechanics. That in itself is going to bring people in, right? All these new other things, the marketplace in itself, having it easier to buy chickens, sell your chickens, trade chickens, that's going to bring people into the game. Then once we bring that in and we've got way more people actively playing the game, we can introduce land down the road. I even mentioned in the chat too of bringing the idea of they could introduce the public lands now, get us used to the idea of how the farming and what that's all going to look like.
That was actually Little Bala had that same thought of just like, why don't we have something? We don't even have like a visible, you know, not tangible, but like a use case that we can see. Like, what is this land? What is it doing? It was very strange to me that this was dropped, and then now they're going to give us information later. These things should have came together, because there's no way. And I was, and we'll see this in this next one here. It's worth getting to this before we jump on any further, Josh. The next part. Clearly, the devs saw that things weren't received well at all. I think there was basically nobody in the chat that was overly defending it, and they decided.
Can't forget about Pump.
I can.
They if they go through with it, let's say they're hard-headed and they go through with it, there will be less than 50 sold.
At that price, at this price, yes. But here's where we're looking at. They decided on basically 2 outcomes here, and there's a lot of people asking for a third. So, Josh, run this by us a little bit here.
So Apex came in at 3:00 this afternoon Central Time. He said, "Hey guys, I see many are disappointed about the pricing for the land. We thought very carefully about the price and based it on the utility we have in store for the land plots and what was needed for near future development, but also on the fact that when we initially launched our chickens, we sold out in 15 minutes, and there wasn't a game, just a white paper. Now we have a game with thousands of races and hundreds of thousands of dollars in payouts, just a much more solid base. However, I don't want anyone to be upset by our decisions, so me and Deli had a discussion and considered the options. One of them was lowering the mint price and keeping the rake, but at a reduced rate, and the second option is to pause the CDW mint, focus on improving the races, then launch the land with more functionality sometime next year. They're currently leaning towards the second option, but they want y'all to let them know what you think they should do."
So
now,
here's you got something, Josh, before I go, or
there's a couple things in that top paragraph that I want to address.
that's where I'm going back to as well. So you can get started and we can start there. Yeah.
The first thing that I feel is, I'll just say it. I feel the first thing that is a little out of touch that I see in this whole paragraph, and don't get me wrong, I have trusted these devs since day one, but also on the fact that when we initially launched our chickens, they sold out in 15 minutes. Now, that was a completely different time in this space and a full-on bull run of craziness, and right on the heels of Zed Run, and Top Shot money was a-flowing.
Yeah,
I mean,
Sambo
it was
just said,
crazy. It was a crazy time in the NFT space. Apes just launched and went on a rocket ship 3 months later. It was
everything sold out.
Yeah,
everything was selling out back then.
Yeah, you guys bought chats for crying out loud.
But like, it's
chats.
I'm
trying to get a joke in. We need some jokes tonight.
We're in a different time this year. We're in a serious bear market. ETH is literally in half of what it was.
Yeah.
We can't ignore the financial crisis.
The last mint, it was about half. The first mint, I think it was about 1,700, if I remember correctly. First mint was about 1,700 for ETH.
Yeah, but running up.
Well, it was running up, definitely.
Here's where I think they're short-sighted real quick. If they're looking at it based on what we sold out in 15 minutes last time, they should be looking at it. What are the number of active holders that are playing this game?
Yeah,
because that is going to be the ones that are going to be the long-term holders, that are going to be the ones that are utilizing the land, that are buying the land. It doesn't matter. If you put land out today and we can farm, if there's only 500 people playing, nobody's buying shit. Nobody's buying anybody's crops. So all of our land is pointless. Okay. We have to have more users. That's the only thing they should be looking at, is what's the current number of users. It shouldn't matter what was done last month or last year.
Yeah. It's just, like I said, that was a completely different time in the space, and a year ago is 5 years ago in a lot of people's war-torn minds of the NFT space. So
the part that frustrates me here is kind of like it just feels a bit out of touch and out of sync with just the state of not only the game, the market in general, the state of the world in a lot of ways right now, financially. And it's like they were saying there wasn't a game, just a white paper. Now we have a game, thousands of races. Like, yes, we do. And a lot of us do like this game, but this game still needs a fair amount of improvements and things done. And they know that. And this isn't like, I'm not telling them how to do their jobs here, but we still need a fair amount of improvement.
Yes.
And now there's another wave of funding that is coming through from us, which we all kind of accepted, and we all kind of had an idea on a price. And I'm leaning towards the idea that they just simply overshot this price, thinking that.
I don't know so much, and I said this off air. Again, you go to last year. Imagine if when we were able to mint the chickens, if we could immediately race them and then they dropped land a month later. I could see land going for this price.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't
right
think
at the
the
height of the
price.
bull.
I don't think the price is off, except for this timing of it. If it's that price in a year and we've got 10,000 racers, it's probably worth that.
Well,
but
on
right
that
now
note,
today, it's completely short-sighted of the current climate of everything.
During the circle, Crazy Jay asked, like, okay, fast forward to whenever they do this mint next year, what would make you okay with a 0.15 mint? And I still wasn't sure if a 0.15 mint would make it work. A, we don't really know what the financial market's going to look like, or the crypto space whenever they decide to do this next. And B, well, I'm doing numbers, but if they don't get
math,
if they don't get this thing active, if they don't get the chicken market active, if they don't get the races active, the whole thing active, nothing's going to change.
No.
Right.
Well, so I'd actually asked a question of Apex in the main chat, just because I felt like we needed some more clarification before deciding on those two options. And the one clarification that I was asking for is, if we decide to postpone the mint and move on, are we going to push forward with some more aggressive marketing, or is this game going to sit flat? Because if it sits flat, I understand the people that say if this game sits flat, we abandon the mint and we move on, it could be devastating for the whole progress. So, like, what's going to happen in supplement if we move on from the mint is my biggest question.
Well, that's what I tell you. And that's, in my opinion, there's a few things at play. Get the marketplace active, right? The minute that I can easily, and I don't have to deal with OpenSea, I can buy a chicken, I can sell a chicken. Now we've got the market moving a little bit more just by doing that, right? Even within our own group of people that are active right now. But that also allows easier people to get in easier right off the bat. Step one, right? That's the first thing that they should be working on before any land. Then I think they should go into making first off, we got to get racing finished. We got to get the correct sound effects. I know there was the board where they were doing the check marks. They had all these sound effects that were listed as completed. Where are those?
They're probably waiting for it all to be applied at once.
So let's go. Let's get on those. You see what I'm saying? So let's get the racing at least, and I don't even call it finalized, but let's get volume 1 up and running. We're still not even complete there. Okay. Then once you do that, you can get on into breeding, right? We don't need land for breeding.
Right.
We don't need crops for breeding.
Yep.
Right.
People for breeding.
So before we jump to one other thing, because I do want to attack both sides of this, the idea of moving forward and moving on. Dave, just your general thoughts about like these two options. Is there one you prefer at the moment, or do you kind of feel, like you're still undecided?
Well, the thing I don't like is the next year concept. I think you can pump the brakes and start to knock a few things out before having to talk about next year. First thing is, if you're going to tell me that the price is based on utility, I need to see a lot more than what is sitting in the tutorial right now.
Yeah,
you need to sell me on this price. What is my value proposition here?
Because clearly they obviously, the way that they have laid this out, it's based on the utility we have in store for the land plots. So obviously they believe highly in what that utility is if they thought that price was okay.
Yeah. The other thing, we need a roadmap 2.0 that is not a picture. If you're going to tell me that this mint is based on what you need for future development, what are you developing? When are you aiming roughly to develop some of it? Give me some sort of, if I'm dropping 0.133 per land, like I just need to see the value there. And that doesn't need to take until next year. If they actually believe in the math that they did, I want to see them show it to us in a way that they just, they haven't with this promotion. They've shown us JPEGs of what land's going to look like. And it's nice art.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's nice art. It's good concept.
I love it.
And I'm still stoked about land and what it can mean for the game. There was actually a point during the spaces where I kind of was like, we could sit here and talk ourselves into like a dozen reasons for the use case of this land and how cool it could be.
Right.
But the price is just out of touch in my mind. And
you're on the point there. Go over those dozen, even on those dozen reasons. We just mentioned that racing wasn't fully established.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that are still in the works there. So let's say let's go over the scenario of they lower the amount so
Mhm.
low that
Well-
we think it sells out. I'm not even going to name a price. Let's just say it all sells out.
Well, there
So
was
low.
there was a push for like 0.05, like being talked
Let's say it's
around, but
03.
you know,
I'm
yeah,
just
I
throwing
know.
out a number.
Yeah.
Let's say it's so low that it sells
good.
out.
You're,
Now
yours
what?
is next, Josh. I'll get to it.
Right now, what do we
Well,
have?
thanks, Dad.
You're
We've
welcome.
got land that
Call
we
you
have
Dad
all
now.
these 12 things of utility
Mhm.
that are in the works.
Mm-hmm.
How long is it going to take before even 3 or 4 of those are implemented? At this pace,
Fair. Yeah.
a while,
Mhm.
right? That's going to be
Correct.
in the works. And we're going to go through this dance of, oh, we're going to, one Friday, we'll announce the time that we're going to do yada, yada.
Yeah.
And we're going to be sitting on pins and needles again. And
Yep.
it's going to be this game of on and on and on.
So I
would
think the
rather them
biggest
get everything ready.
the biggest argument that I feel like holds the most credence within your the biggest part of your argument that holds the most credence is the fact that this isn't necessary now. So I mean, Fledge came into the spaces and was just like, yeah, we're talking in USD here, but it's like 2.6 million. What do they need that for now? Like, what do we need? What do they need it for now? You can clearly see in their wallet when you look at them. That's the beauty of Web3 and blockchain. They have plenty in there. It's not like the funding is out. They've been neglectful with their money or anything like that. So, what is it about now that starts this thing where we need it at this point to move forward? Now, maybe we don't know, and that is part of the problem here. We are very in the dark about a lot of this stuff. We need more information about the land. Like Dave was saying, like we need a legitimate use case. We need a legitimate a road map forward that we know what we're buying and why we're buying it.
Another thing that they could do before we even establish land is get a solid and consistent tournament schedule set up so that it creates a steady stream of racing. Okay, get it set up to where I can go on their website and track all the data and see all the tournament info, and have this something to where we're driving more racing, because ultimately that's what's going to bring people to the game and have more sets running. That should be their number one focus. How do we generate more Coops running races?
I have an idea.
Okay, yeah.
Tell me I am curious to see what Josh.
The other side, if we are going to try to push forward with the mint, then something's got to change. And Josh has at least something worth considering. That's for sure.
Now, first off, before I lay this out, I want to point out another thing about this first paragraph that you see on the screen. Now, not knocking that we have thousands of races and hundreds of thousands of dollars in payouts. That is quite the achievement. But this is the number that doesn't sit right with me. And not like in a bad way, but just in a way that backs up Blake's point a lot.
Raises an eyebrow.
Raises an eyebrow and backs up Blake's point a lot. There are less than 200 wallets that have 500 races. Almost at 200. I think it's like 193.
And the reality is 500 races.
Just curious, because my idea that I have kind of plays into that. And I was just curious to see how many wallets were at 500 to 1,000 or in that range, just to get a general grasp of how much of this Chicken Derby community has been engaged with the game and see where we're at with those. And Spiver, there might be some of those wallets are of some of the same people, but it's
a handful.
It's still just a stark number to look at and go, whoa, there's this much money in payouts, but only this many wallets have 500 races. I mean, think about it. How many of us regulars that are there all the time have a bird that has more than 500 races? Just one bird. And I'm talking full coops and wallets. We're less than 200. Now, my idea is, I say they push forward with the mint, but why not take it exactly how they did the first chicken drop and they tier it out into 3 different mints? The first mint is OG third mint price at 0.042, and only those that have, 250 or 500 races that have been engaged in the game Those have that just been with the people that have been grinding for the last year, those that have been sticking it out and have been talking up this game when it was bad times. Reward the people that have been in this game grinding. 500 races. Even if you said that number 2 weeks before the drop, if you have 500 races before the mint, think about how many people are going to grind to get 500 races at a 0.042 drop price. For 4,333 pieces of land, it's still a big chunk.
And this is a quick interjection. I mean, it has to be said. I don't know if there is something definitively we can point at and say, that's my benefit for holding this long. Now, maybe that's in the works, but we haven't seen it. That's for sure.
So now the second point is, or the second tier. So you have your first tier, people that have raced X amount of races get OG third mint price, and you sell out 4,333 pieces of land. Done. Those
13,
people that have been dedicated to the game get the land that they want. They obviously, I mean, we all want the land, but not at that price. And we all want to see what the land can do. So those people that have been doing this and testing the game, give them a shot to show off the land, its use case and all of that, while also giving us information about the land on top of that. And then you have a second wave mint of 4,333 for all Chicken Derby holders at like 0.085 or something like that. Okay. Then that sells. And then you have a third wave later on down the road where you sell the rest of the 4,333 for 0.1. Listen, you're still going to make, I did the math before the show just so I could have it. And it's still a lot of ETH. I mean, the first mint at 0.042 for 4,333 pieces of land still nets them 182 ETH in the first mint. You take that to the second tier at 0.085, the same amount of land pieces, that nets them 368 ETH in that second wave. Fourth wave to public at 0.1 would be additional 433 ETH. That's still a lot of fucking money.
It's a nice
So
funding.
I'm not
funding.
opposed to a situation like that. I in fact, I would be fine. I thought there was going to be a drop anyways, but I still go to the fact of, let's say your scenario rolls out. We get all of our land for 0.04, whatever we can do, right? There's still only 500 of us, and there's still, we are all.
Push it until you finish the stuff that we were asking for as well for racing, so we can pump that aspect of the game, and then do that wave of like. Even it still needs to be delayed a little bit, but I don't think it needs to be to next year. And I don't even know, like, you could still do a first wave mint in a couple months, and I bet it would still. I'd bet it would sell.
Let me pause and ask a different question.
Sure.
How many coops do you guys think need to be running actively to fund an economy full of crops, land, and racing to where we are able to generate revenue? How many coops?
Minimum.
Minimum.
I mean, we can look at just kind of what Zed is putting together, and it's got to be over 1,000.
But do they even have a crop type economy, or are they just simply an economy based off buying and selling their racing?
Well, here's the crazy thing, and Daniel did bring this up. Like, people are still dropping like an ETH on coats over there.
Yeah.
Like they're spending big money on that game, even though they have had misstep after misstep, and people are wondering what the hell they're doing with this human park, which is a scary abomination.
But they have way more than 1,000, right?
Like,
how many?
Well, yeah, but still, like that's just like that. You have to get to that point. It feels, and right now,
I think it's even more than 1,000. I think you're getting like 5,000.
No, I said 1,000. Like, we need to get to 1,000. I think just like looking
daily
at
racers, not just
where
I've
we
done
got
some
to
races.
Now, let me tell. So, and these are just ideas. We've been talking all along. Go back to our early podcasts about all the Candy Crush games and all this that just grind. They can create this right now without land and get the base of racers and daily users by creating daily challenges, running these tournaments. They can do all this right now with the game that we have in play without the land. Once we get all that user base, now we can drop the land, and we have enough user base to build and fund an economy that we plan to build. Right now, it doesn't matter what we drop them at. We are too early. We do not have enough people here today to start, or even it would be, everybody's land is going to be useless if it gets dropped now. We're going to buy each other's land. You're just going to end up growing your own crops for your own birds, and nobody's going to buy your crops.
Well, what I was worried about was just the market dynamics. And I did bring this up on the spaces, and just what exactly happens. Like, let's just play it out the way they thought to play it out. 0.133. I don't have a clue how many people would actually buy that. I really don't. But whoever does,
not at the risk of getting a shitty plot of land.
Right.
And
I know they've said that every plot of land is going to be useful, and clearly,
let me say this:
they believe
what if it was
this
just
land?
a drop of stadiums only for 0.133? How many would buy it then?
Oh, I'd be okay with that, but breaking it down like that gets tricky, because then the Coop land.
That's right. Now you're
giving
land. All the front loading. You're front loading all the big heavy. But my point is that it's not a bad price, but it's a bad price for the time. Right? It makes no sense, and it's really kind of a shitty price if I'm going to get a plot of land that has one crop spot on it and nothing else.
That is the frustrating part, because no one's going to pay the mint fee for just a common plot of land, if on the secondary, of course.
What does that common plot of land? What's the floor of that? What do you think is it going to go to? Let's say
depending if someone makes a mistake and just wants out. We've seen chickens are literally selling today for like 0.001 sometimes.
I'm talking about like a legitimate, like, where do you think what is it 0.1? Does that shitty piece of land even go
lower than that?
Honestly,
I'd think 0.05, right?
I feel like you have
then that should be the mint price.
My idea of tiering out the drop still, like, not so
I
much
don't
prevents
mind
that, but it kind of builds into it, and it isn't just a slam rush of 0.13 and then the bottom drops out right after it because people don't want the bad stuff. I mean,
I don't mind that tiered drop at all. In fact, but if they did that when we had 5,000 people, I think it would be perfect.
Well, just for a second, I do want to point out that I still do think the price is a bad price, even in a good market. I'm not even sure what project, and like Ross said it, what project in the last 3 months
has
minted
a good market, Tyler, is my question. What's a good market when ETH is $3,500? That 0.13 is astronomical. Then
it is.
I mean,
it is.
I don't know.
Today it's 200, but
you can't. I don't know. Even in a good market with ETH up and pumping, I'm sorry.
There's as 5 Pillars says, the return on investment isn't clear enough. Even in the whole concept of it, Daniel got into that idea that at this moment the game isn't really a ROI creating machine.
No,
and it can be, but at the moment it's not. Now, I was always under the impression, and maybe this was my own fault, and maybe I'm just trying to connect the dots the best I can, but I was always under the impression that bringing the land into the game was going to allow them to excel to the next level. It was going to allow them to add more things to the game that'll get us racing, daily challenges, all kinds of that shit. But at that price, where is the liquidity left? The out of touch part for me, as Sambo asked earlier, like, are we more angry about the price, or are we more angry about the feeling that they're out of touch with how the community is doing right now?
Yes.
And the community's down bad. We're all down bad.
Yes.
I think it's definitely out of touch, but it's the community, it's everything. It's the timing, right? But here's the thing. We keep saying it's out of touch with the community, but how many people in the community have been asking for land? How many people have been saying, when land? When are we doing land? When are we going to take away rake? How many people have been asking for all this? I haven't heard anybody saying, when are we going to get racing fixed? When are we going to get?
We talked about this, or I mentioned this on the spaces earlier. If you did it, another thing that would play into a tiered drop, you could tier out and phase out the rake in stages. And then on top of that, you also have to factor in that once the marketplace is up and running, you can set your royalty to what you want and not have to worry about OpenSea. when we get to breeding down the road, I hope way down the road, you can also, I mean, there's so many things that they can add a royalty to within the marketplace that I feel that could sustain the rake that they're trying to get rid of. There are other places you can move that stuff around. You know what I'm saying?
I think my point is I think they are listening to some people. I think they're listening to people that aren't fully, they're not listening to the bulk of the community. Right. I think they are listening. People have asked for no rate. People have asked for when is land.
Big thing people want is marketing now.
Yeah. I asked that direct question on the spaces. If we could have, would you, if you could just say, okay, we either move forward with this mint, let's just say it's a lower price. We worked it out. We'll figure it out. And the rake is reduced or gone, or everything stays the same on the rake, but we have a functioning game, a now relatively liquid or more liquid marketplace that actually feels like you can play in it a little bit, and just an influx of new users. I think it's very simple. Everyone wants the latter. Everyone would very much be like, yep, the rake's fine. Because, Mr. Pete brought up a good point of just like on the cheap races, that 10% is only adding like 30 cents into the pot. So yes, on the bigger races, it is bringing in a little bit extra money.
But no one's racing in the big races right now.
Not yet. We haven't been given a incentive, although I do want to bring up something that Little Ball talked about on that as far as different ways. And maybe towards the end, we get into like the different ways we could incentivize and get racing going a little bit. I think that's also really important. But let's stay focused right now on just...
I just want to make this point clear as well. Don't take what we're saying and our criticisms are mostly constructive. Trust me, we're not gonna like up and go anywhere. This isn't just a FUD session. This is just us being passionate about what we've been trying to, all of us, the community has been trying to build and the team's been trying to build. It's just I don't know. I feel more disappointed than fuddy.
Well, we're kind of in a Monday morning.
I still very much believe in the vision of this game. Don't get me wrong at all. I mean, the idea is next level, and just everything once it's fully formed and together, that idea intrigues the hell out of me. But we still got a long ways to go.
But all of it, as Blake mentioned earlier, all of that is in the future. All that is stuff that isn't going to be ready right away. And maybe it's the step towards it. And maybe that's how they want to market the game, is when the game is more complete. But look at all of us who've been obsessed with this game, even though it doesn't have all that stuff yet. Zed doesn't have any of that stuff. People are still obsessed with it. I'm changing my tune on the concept now of exactly when marketing and how marketing should look. Because if we can't get this thing pumping a little bit, then the land's going to die in the vine.
Yeah. Say we open up the marketing machine tomorrow. You bring in a bunch of new people. The game is not done. Right? We still need to get it right. People aren't profiting off of racing right now. Right? So what are we marketing to?
And there aren't enough tournaments out there really, because we can't do that many without the ability of, like with private races, it unlocks a whole new thing. But it's a weird step to get there. You know what I mean?
But you don't need land for that. And this is a bullshit thing that they're saying you need land to do private racing. Who said that? I think that's bullshit. You don't need land for that. You don't need
as they have it set up, that is the mechanism they had set up for that, at least, was the stadium. So that's where
they could do anything right now on that website to where we are able to enter in to a private racing, and they take a 10% rake of whatever enters into it. They could set that up right now.
I think
quicker than they can enact land.
I still think I know I keep hammering on this tiered mint idea, but the idea of
But they said phases originally. We thought they said phases originally. Right. We kind of thought we were going to have that.
But if you do it in phases, it phases out. There aren't all of a sudden 500 stadiums available. There aren't all of a sudden everybody and their dog has a private racetrack, and then you can't fill any of them because everybody has one. Again, if you do it in tiers and again, build up the core of the people and let them experience it and spread the word, and then figure out the use cases, and then other people see the use cases, it only kind of builds the hype up. And I'm not saying tier that drops out like 2 weeks apart. You do phase one, 1 month and you wait like a quarter, I would think, or even maybe not a quarter, but you could wait a while and let that hype build. And so, like I said, any holder could get in on the second wave that owns a chicken, and it still kind of rewards everybody. It rewards the people that have been grinding first and foremost, or donating, as Ross said in parentheses, but it also would reward the chicken holders as a whole. And then you can go and take it to public once everybody has gotten a taste of it, once it's already been implemented and we've been using it, and you can market it. That's the thing.
I don't mean to keep harping on this, but if they drop land in September, say they drop a third of it, how long until you're able to utilize that land? Is it before the second wave of drops? Do you have some utility before then? Like, what utility is ready now?
That is a fair point.
What is ready? Why do we keep wanting land right now?
If you phase out the land, it is a good point that, like, if you're only giving so many plots out, can we use it right away? Can we still do that while having plots that need to be sold? So I get that. That's also a problem. But I'll hark back on this too, because we see the idea that marketing will take care of a lot of these problems. But would you be willing to recommend this game to a friend right now? Just outright be like, yeah, come on in. This is a good time to be in. And the answer is,
if it was a close friend, because I would have the time to take through him of the whole buying process and all this.
Right. Are they already in crypto?
But let me ask you this.
Right. But not just somebody who likes to bet on football on the weekends.
Right. Would it enhance your ability to gain new friends if all they had was a marketplace that was on site?
So here we are.
Simple things, right?
The marketplace obviously is break down barriers. We got to break down barriers, and marketplace does that. You need to get the game functional and working well, and have the scheduling working well, and all that stuff. There are a lot of things now that need to get tweaked.
Yeah,
the daily challenges, tournaments,
done, get the sounds implemented. Let's get this game to where we can hype this fucking game.
Let's get on a weekly schedule to where we know on Wednesday nights we're having a tournament, and then new people will start to see that and watch, and then the next Wednesday they'll want to get in on it or whatever it is, right? Yeah.
We can't.
I think a 3-week challenge is way too damn long.
Yeah, and the
community
thing is,
manager too. Yeah, I agree, Sambo.
We'll get to that. That's important. We're gonna get to that. Go, Dave.
But the thing is, and I think Tyler got close to touching on this earlier, is we can't wait for everything on their checklist to be done to get marketing. Like, get good enough and get pushing it, because marketing is not easy. Like, when Zed flipped their switch with a New York Times article, it was a perfect storm. The Top Shot money was pumping. We've talked about this. It was the exact time to flip that switch. Even if you turn on marketing tomorrow in the middle of the most bear market we've seen in a while, like, who's getting excited?
Right.
Like, every major news piece about NFTs right now is down on them. It's poo-pooing. Is this the death of them? Everything's so down. Like, it's, crypto's over.
Yeah.
Like, that's the general sentiment. So who are we marketing to? But we have to start at some point.
So now I've always been the advocate for why market something that isn't finished. But I think we are at a point to where we can start ramping that up a lot more. You can't just rely on those that have been marketing for you to continue to do that when there is not. We can't keep marketing the same thing for so long if it's not appealing other people. You know what I'm saying? We need more things that make this game an it factor. Not so much the game itself needs to change, but just things that add to those levels of excitement.
Functionality. It's the functionality.
Like sound effects. Again, get the talents worked out to where they are working as they would like them to be working.
Yep. We're in right now with a time where they said they are buffing some talents.
Yeah.
I've already seen some things that I'm not going to confirm, but I've raised my eyebrow. Just like, this talent looks like it's doing better. I'm going to keep my eye on that. So yeah, there are things right now, that need that buffing. The whole game needs that buffing right now. And
Wham.
I just
It's not what I was saying.
it's funny. We were asking who's asked for land. And yes, we were starting to get a little excited about land because
Crazy Jay raised his hand.
Yeah,
But they kept telling us about land.
They said it was coming. So it's like, okay, we're excited because they said it's coming. Cool.
Yeah, we fell into their hype. But
and
if
that's
nobody had
fine.
ever mentioned land, I wouldn't be worried about the last phase of the roadmap, which is where they talk about kind of the metaverse.
I think this, and I saw some people actually say this. I think it was Ross that actually said it. Like, it kind of woke some people up to just be like, wow, 0.133 is so out of touch based on everybody. They almost just about everybody, punch plump excluded. That it's just like, where is that number coming from?
It is 7 times the floor.
Yeah,
It's
someone said like
preset.
you could I believe a
Snorlax.
99. Yeah,
Said that.
yeah.
You could buy 7 floorboards.
It's well, I think, and I think it was Ross that mentioned it earlier in the chat. I think he is spot on. I think this was the planned land price from the original chicken drop. What I mean by that is they took these prices, they had them in set, and that whenever they were going to enact land, it was going to be for 0.133.
If that, I don't want to interrupt you, but I just have to say this. If that was the case, why hold it so close to the vest for this long? Why not?
Why? I mean, because they want to maybe see what ETH does. I don't know.
I mean, that's
why.
If that
why?
was the if that was the price that they agreed on at back end of the after, like say they set that price up after post third drop. All right, we got our chickens dropped. Okay, what are we going to mint our next phase of?
I don't know.
Land?
Mhm.
Even then, I feel like you would have had a better shot at hyping that up when we were still hitting the tail end of that bull run. I still think you had a better opportunity to pump that price, and even still probably would have got some eyebrows raised at you, but it would have been at least somewhat of an acceptable number because of where we were at in terms of the space.
But
Sure.
the flip side is that they just now came up with this price today in this environment and this climate, right? With everything going on.
There's no
Like,
good
which
spin.
is the crazier of
No.
the two?
And I'll be like, I said
I don't know.
I said this on the spaces too.
I don't know.
I have usually found myself looking at their decision making process and liking the direction, not always loving the execution, not always loving the timing, but being like, you know what, I like where their mind's at. I'm there with it. It makes sense. I cannot rationally or with any type of data driven info that we have rationalize a 0.133, even if this land is super valuable and we just don't know about it yet. That's part of the problem that we
That's
don't
the thing.
know about
Yeah,
it.
I mean,
Has
if
anything
it's
dropped over
that
10K?
beneficial to us, we need to know that.
Tell me what I'm buying and why it's
there-
worth
Because like the chat, there was one comment that said that land better be shitting me some golden eggs at that price, and like
Right.
I laughed at that
But
genuinely,
that's-
but
Yeah.
seriously, like that land better have some kind of return on investment to
But
the
it has
person
to
investing.
come from
it.
the community, right? And this
Yeah.
is back to my point. Whether you drop it for 0.04 or 0.1, if 0.133 would be a nightmare, because then we're really not making anything, and we just spent even a shit ton more, right?
Yeah.
But even at 0.04, we're still buying our own crops today. I have no need to buy anybody else's.
Yeah.
And people
It's
aren't buying
just-
mine.
it's
Yeah,
just
and you know, Charles
it's
says
a head scratcher in the wave of free mints. Now I understand this
Right.
land mint obviously can't be a free mint because of
No, well,
if
but
there is
still,
any utility to it, that would just be ridiculous. But it's just that's the part that's a little out of touch with me, is where like you see where the space is going, you see how successful free mints have been going, you see even how like even cheap mints have been going.
oh, there's a new
It's-
project, Cheap Chimps.
There you go.
Nailed it.
Patent pending.
Dibs.
Pending tomorrow.
It's just I don't know, that I just scratched I just kind of did one of, like you said, Tyler, my eyes comically came out of my head when I saw that number, and I'm just like,
it's all out of sync. None of it brings any type of understanding. Like even just my normal patient amicable demeanor is worn thin on this one. I don't like this is the first time I've felt uncomfortable with something they've dropped. It's really uncomfortable. Like a lot of other stuff, I could justify, I could rationalize, I could see the different elements. This one, I can't come up with anything on it of how it was the right move or how they thought it was the right move. So it does make you wonder. I mean, we have seen this for a while. We have seen the need, the want for a community manager that's a bit of a liaison between the game and its users. And it almost seems like at this point, there's a disconnect. And I don't know where that disconnect has come in, but it's there. And we are not on the same page whatsoever with what they think this is.
What sucks is this team is we've been saying this since we first started this podcast. This team has been about the community. They've listened to us. They've taken our suggestions. They have used our suggestions, and just seeing this, and I know a lot of people felt the same way. It just felt like we've been speculating on a price for Mint for months. 2 months at least, I'd think. At least a month for sure on hard speculation on how much this is going to be. And I know they've read that. That's the thing. Like, they've had to have seen that and go in their heads, man, these guys are going to be shocked when they really see how much these are.
Yeah.
But just like to not stop and think about, well, like the community sentiment is they all think it should be around this price. I feel like they missed a great opportunity to listen to the community and kind of pivot a little bit. And that's why I still think there is some time that they can fix this. Like I said, these two options here, I don't know. I don't love either of them, but I think, like I said, my idea of a third option of maybe tiering out the drops once we get to a good standing point with racing and everything and get marketplace up and ready, I think that could work.
Here's what I'll ask from the community. And because I know we keep saying that they're out of touch, but I'll say it again. I think they're in touch to a certain group of people. And what I mean by that is they're listening to what they want. And they're hearing what they're wanting. And that's where they're coming out.
It's possible, but it's at this point, it's the most united this community has ever been.
Well, and so here's what I'll ask.
Spider made that point in the Cock Talk channel.
Yeah.
I haven't seen this community this united since January when we all wanted races.
But even in January, it wasn't this bad.
No, even in January, I saw that there was reasoning and understanding, and it was unsettling and it was frustrating and it was disappointing, but I still looked at it and went, okay, fine. But then
what happened in the second week of January? So
yeah,
the first week of January was the worst we'd ever seen until today. I think today's a new low. Only one person was trying to stay positive, and that's
who hasn't claimed a Coop. And
has a lot to say, though.
Has a lot to say.
Lots of opinions. But
was a loud minority today, but
I don't know.
Yeah.
Is one a minority? I guess so. Yeah.
But what happened the second week of January?
But I respect
you're right. Second week of January. Yeah.
But the thing that happens in the second week of January is they double down on communication. They start talking to people a lot more than they had been previously. They went quiet in December. It feels a little bit like they've gone quiet a bit on us again. And then they did this with this drop where it's just like, guys, you didn't even prepare us for this.
No.
And then you slapped us with 0.133. So guess what? Tomorrow morning, it's got to be back on communication. They have so much walking back, so much spinning to do to get kind of the chat back where it was. Like for most of the summer, things were humming along okay. It's the same, let's call it 100 faces that you see every day.
But just a month ago, we were saying like, they're hitting their marks, they're doing their things, talents are dropping, that's dropping. They're fixing
the talent rollout was perfect.
Yeah, the talent rollout was flawless.
They're fixing the quick fixes. Like it looked like, okay, all right, these guys are knocking down dominoes one after the other and felt confident, and that's great. But the confidence in this one, and that's the one thing I will say, they do sure seem confident about the land, and that's cool. Yeah. And again, I could sit here and I could have a legitimate conversation for an hour about how the use case of this land is exciting. But this yeah, it's
what I don't think.
it's well beyond at this point with this price.
I will take out this equation of it being a money grab, and here's why. Because there's a number of different things that they have teased that they could drop, and we could have been on Farmers by now if they wanted to have a money grab. We could have had land a long time ago. We could have got all different kinds of animals and all this other bullshit. All I'm saying is this is why I don't think it's all necessarily about the money. I think they're listening to some people who wanted land. And here's what I'll say. If we're in their shoes right now, even after today's fiasco, I still don't think there's a clear picture on what the community wants. I think there's a big section of us that don't want the land to be dropped right now. And there's another section of us that are pushing for it to be dropped right now with changes. I think at the end of the day, no matter what they do, you're going to irritate, and half of the people aren't going to be.
Nobody wants 0.1.
Yeah,
3,
no.
I will say this.
Nobody.
Everyone wants better volume. Everyone wants the volume to be better. Everyone wants there to be a smoother process in this game. And yeah, they addressed the spinning wheel this morning, and we went from 1 minute, and we're like, oh, it's 1 minute, we can deal with that. Whereas before we would bitch about 1 minute. So yeah, and I know that's all not their fault. And between the what's going on with poly and Bioeconomy, I get it. But everyone wants this game to be operational, functional, and smooth, and that can then bring in racers, because it is hard to bring in people into this game without those things already set in place. That is definitively what we all want. And I think the biggest thing those that don't want the land mint to go, I'll rephrase, those that want the land mint to go on but at a lower price are worried that it's too big of a setback, and just the mishap and everything being pushed off is going to be remembered, and it'll be brutal.
I just think that if they push it off for a year, like option 2 is suggested,
mm-hmm.
I don't know what amount of marketing could. Here's the thing: when people catch wind of what happened and why, or this and that automatically turns people off.
Yeah,
and I just feel like a pivot is a better move, as opposed to just pushing it off altogether.
However, if they focused, like they said, focus on improving the races. Yeah. So if we had focusing on improving the races, sharpen the blade on exactly how you want this mint to go when the time is right, and the price and all that. We go from there.
Here's the thing that will get people into races and more motivated to probably try and race more birds. If we can get mobile to work a lot better,
that's
or a mobile platform that would work
really
way
just
more,
work.
You know how many more people would probably be willing to race their birds? And because a lot of people race from their computers. The problem is not everybody's at their computer all day.
You're hitting the nail on the head.
I race from my phone, but I don't watch the races all the time. I do if I want to suffer through it, but
short races. That's it.
Yeah,
good.
Not the 200s.
Well, I think you're hitting the nail on the head. And what you're saying is you said one thing we can agree on as a community is that we want more users and this game to be pumping out more, right? So that should be the question that we as a community ask ourselves. Number one, how do we get that? It shouldn't be, should we drop land or should we push land off? No, the first question should be, how do we as a community, what do we want to gain more users and more racers? If that ends up being land, then by all means, let's ask for land. But I think as a community, we need to figure out what we want and stop. I think Deli and Apex kind of did this by giving us 1 and 2. I don't think we should even be on 1 and 2. We need to figure out the main question. What is going to gain more users and racers? And let's then decide what we as a community think the next step is.
But they had a vision that this land opportunity would bring in other players outside of those that don't want to race in the game.
I don't think everybody knows
like if they're not going to pay $30 for a chicken, why would they pay $250 for a piece of land?
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying though.
That we
should take the land out of the equation for now.
Yeah, but I think that's still, to me, just the most bewildering part is I thought today they were also going to give us some more information on just what this is. And it goes back to Dave's point of just like, where is this? What is this you're selling us so we can justify buying it? So one thing I do want to get into is just some of the things that the community has been talking about and the things that frustrate them. And we're actually more on the same page than you think, although different people obviously have different things that they're frustrated about. I mean, hell, right there in the chat, perfect timing. Sydney Cove says, priorities: 1, fix racing; 2, improve website visuals; 3, drop marketplace; and then 4, marketing push. And then maybe by 5th, we can find our way to the land drop. On the tweet that was sent out by Wakebeat Gang to elicit a little bit of feedback, we had a lot of the same things pop in. Ross saying biggest takeaway is there's a disconnect between the amount of liquid available in a relatively small community and the price of the mint. Very frustrated with how so many facets of the game that could be hammered out first that make this just a overall strange time for the mint. T-Merc says that the racers aren't being incentivized enough, and that's a very good point. What exactly are we being incentivized? And this was a perfect opportunity to do that, to give some incentive. That's why I like Josh's plan. That's why I like what he said. That's why I like the idea of pushing towards getting to a certain number of races. Something that says, for you people that have been grinding or donating, however we want to say it, there's something there for you. There's something that beyond is, because 0.017 discount ain't it. It's not. It's $25.
No,
And
like
rake removal isn't it either.
500 races. If you want to mint at 0.042 before the first wave, 500 races.
Yep.
Honest, like I said, it's not that many. A lot of us faithful have multiple chickens that are over 500 races on their own. So
again, I've seen
just getting the rake out won't do it either, because it'll still be the same 100 of us trading money. We'll just be trading a little bit less with the dev wallet that we're just going to give back to ourselves into the same free races, because it's the same group of us entering those as well.
Right.
We're just passing money around in a circle.
Right. And so that gets even worse if we all have a piece of land that we're not buying crops off of. Passive income has been a very popular word in our chat tonight, but we can't have passive income with 500 people passing around the income. That's not passive income.
Right.
Again, so it doesn't, I'll say it until I'm blue in the face. They can drop land all they want. They can drop them all, and they can give them away for free today. And it still doesn't mean shit, because there is no use case. There's only 500 users.
If there's a use case, we don't know it. Like that's part of the problem too.
The point is it's not established yet.
Here's the thing. You want to know what's going to help drive the volume of races? It's not these single race tournaments that you can win a wearable on. When Zed first kicked off, how many different tournaments could you jump into?
Right.
Off the bat.
There should be private racing.
Running tournaments left and right. The Zed was putting tournaments on daily. I mean, like even today, they have $15,000 worth of tournament prizes that go out every day that are free race qualifiers to get into these tournaments.
Well, Zed started out with a community tournaments like we have today. They didn't go straight into where they were hosting. That's been fairly recent.
But my point is we've been here for a little while.
Yeah,
right.
I agree.
We've been here and doing these tournaments for a little while. Let's get the game, the racing part of it polished, like you said
100%.
earlier. Get the audio going for the game. Get the talents buffed. Get some more tournaments rolling with even the sub communities, so we can get stuff out there, get people engaged.
I tell you what they could do. I
said there aren't quite 200 wallets at 500 races. Do you want to know how many wallets have even 100 races?
Yeah, how many people would grind?
466 wallets have raced 100 races.
This isn't the point, but that brings me back to the current tournament that they're running right now. 100 races for a wearable when only 500 people have ever even done 100 races. It's a big ask.
So I think they could come out with daily challenges or even weekly challenges that would be earned towards maybe even a future in-game token that you could spend on these wearables.
Even the land. I mean, that's another thing, man. Sorry to cut you off, but like they're giving away one piece of land on Twitter, which doesn't seem to be bringing anybody in, and one per until the drop. That was their original plan. And I think we had like 5 or 6 thrown in this tournament, like to be given to us. I wonder what it is exactly, or when it is exactly, we will see the return for being loyal and being around and being hanging. And, I'm not seeing Twitter at the moment having the engagement that creates that. Sorry. That's something that's been driving me a little crazy, and it sparked my head there. Did you want to finish, Blake? Did you have something?
Nah, I mean, I think I pretty much got my point on it.
A few other things that just came on, just to get everyone's voices out a little bit. BAWK was big on drop it to 0.05. And there's because basically zero justification for anything over 0.1. This doesn't make any sense. Also love the idea of land, a race for land, literally 1K races, whatever it is, a race for land will be cool. And then of course Hems, we've seen it in the chat tonight and here, basically saying that no land mint should be this early in the game development unless the fundamentals are right. Small marketing push, balancing Chicken Town's volume, incentivized races, all of that. Max Poker said 2/3 of the 33K still haven't even been raced once. How can we suck them into the game? How can we entice them
again
out? I
don't know how many wallets that of those four. Okay, I said there are 466 wallets that have ran at least 100 races.
Mm-hmm.
How many birds? I mean, that could be a big chunk of what we've seen race as far as volume altogether. Now, I didn't ask for what's under 100 because I'm sure there's a bunch of birds that have ran at 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5 races, but
or 7 chick races.
The 100 wallets, or no, 466 wallets with 100 races. I mean, that number needs to skyrocket.
See, I think there's a lot of tweaks that need to be made to the current racing. Are we just set on the current payout structure that this is going to be the perfect way of doing it going forwards? Right? As far as this is the payout for first, second, third, I think they can tweak some things there and get things right and ironed out before new people start coming in. Because if you start tweaking things after we've done a marketing push, people aren't making profit racing. And so they decide to make a change down the road. That's just going to upset the apple cart. And now, so this is the time to do all that. Worry about the land when we've got a functioning, we've got profitable racing. I think that there is a way that they can do at least 1/3 of the birds make a profit. I'm not a mathematician and above my head, but I'm pretty sure.
I mean, at this point, we're still not
1/3 of the birds profit.
We're not there at that point yet. And a lot of it does come down to just people figuring out their birds and having and I know there's still people that are frustrated about the race generation and I've heard people talk about in D how it seems like there's never cheap races in D, so it's hard to discover those birds for $1.50.
Races just don't turn over. Like even when we're in them, even what we consider to be a heavy race moving day, it's still not a lot. I mean, I still have time to go through every single one of my birds in that class, find out its perfect distance and terrain, and click. And I've got a 15-minute wait before the race fills on a good day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
On a day like today, I've got 5 hours before the race runs.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only time we see a queue of races lining up is if we're live doing races or Ross is doing his thing or ABC's filling
it's for 20 minutes.
It takes a community push
or
to
the
get
first
races
day
pumping for an hour and then we're kind of back.
And that shouldn't be, we shouldn't be that big of a boost to the overall.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's to the point of we got to have more people.
Mm-hmm.
But the numbers say that, 500 of us have carried them for the last 9 months since racing went live.
So what makes them think that it's appropriate to drop land today?
Well, that's where
the
I'm
out of touch part that I feel.
And I have banked on the idea that we are going to be wowed by it. And not only have we not been wowed by it, we've been shocked by the price and not been shown.
But I'll say it again. Wow me first.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
you gotta create the hype and before.
This is why I'll go back to what I said at the very beginning of this. I think that ultimately this is going to be better for the long term of the game because I know getting land sounds fun today. I know it seems like a deal, but I think that if they do it and then work out all the kinks, it's going to be a bigger mess.
Mm-hmm.
And if they having this reset and them really us community members pushing back on this, I think is actually going to be a blessing in disguise. I really think it's going to benefit the game.
It certainly can be, because everyone in the community has made themselves very clearly known. And quite frankly, I know I just want to say, like, I feel like the community has been fair in their criticism. I haven't seen a lot of people that came in with any type of excess nonsense, or just, there to fight and dance around in the ashes or anything like that.
Valid
For the most
concerns
part,
all around, really.
It's a smart community. There's a lot of really good suggestions that are being thrown around. There's people that, like the idea of creating the engagement, get the racing working first. I mean, if I know the idea of seasons has been thrown around, I would love to see something like that. I'd love to see double up races where it's like the top 6 get their money back. A beautiful way to drive some volume and get some discovery periods, like different kind of pots mixed up. There's things that can be done to the racing. And not to mention just making the racing look more fun. I was sitting there with my sister this weekend, and I called out 3 different times when something was going to happen in a race, and I was right. I've watched
more
enough and
changes.
I can see it. Yeah,
Ross nailed it on the head. We need more lead changes. We need birds that are running different speeds on the track, not just 2 or 3 that are running a little faster than the others. And it's like when my bird sprints, it shouldn't get passed by a bird that is not sprinting
or asleep.
I don't care what it does. Like, if the visuals don't matter, it should still visually be accurate, right? Like, if my bird is in an all-out sprint, this bird shouldn't just jog past me. I mean, unless
you're
that's
sprinting
a
backwards.
fat bird. Cheshire's a little thick.
Yeah, your sprint is that bad.
Yeah.
You know what, Redhead? Redhead in the chat said, while we're venting, why are they showing the old demo video for the chicken racing on Twitter? And I noticed that, and it did kind of drive me crazy. I have no idea why that, but they were still using the original one for
formatting.
Why haven't we updated marketing material? Where is your marketing department?
Here's what I want to
say,
because you were mentioned just a second ago, Tyler, about what were you just talking about before then, where I don't even remember what you were saying, but it was bringing me back to the marketing and how, imagine if we bring in all this influx of new users today, and we're sitting here, and like right now we have a good community where we can vent this stuff back and forth and they can hear us. But if we had 10,000 people in the chat, there's no way that they're able to work and even hear the community at that point, because there's gonna be so much noise and chaos going on.
Yeah, so our two mods would not stand a chance.
Well, that's why
we would kill Wally.
You can market too soon and burn your bridge with all that marketing if the things aren't right. And this is why
functionality.
I think we can ask for marketing today. I don't think the timing is there. We don't have. I think the first thing we should be asking for is to get the base principles down of what this game is going to be. We still don't have the real racing. We think that because we can enter our chickens and throw in ETH and win ETH, that the game is set enough to bring in new people. It's not.
But here's where, like, again, time machine back to January. Bring back the Trello board and show me what needs to be checked off to get to marketing, right? Sound effects integrated, talents tuned and buffed as needed, camera controls in place so that you can actually rotate the camera to look at the race head on.
Yeah.
What is on that list?
That should be the Friday dev blog. That should be the every other week updates. Hey, guess what? We got big news coming next week. It should be, we got sound effects. We got this racing enhanced. All we get is back end UX changes. Well,
I totally understand that, like, they wanted to keep a lot of these the things about this game secret, so we didn't figure it out. And that stuff still should be secret. When I pop into the chat and go, okay, guys, 100% Beak Ring doesn't bounce back faster from Devo. And Deli pops in and goes, you sure? It makes me go, shit, it doesn't visually show me. So then I have to, that's fine. That's all the way it should be. But that can't leak over into almost feeling like the details of what this game is and where it's going and what's coming next from its seed investors. That's what we are, I've just been in the dark on a lot of this stuff, and then of course asking for more money, and I get it. It's not like asking for more money on something that doesn't have a use case, but we don't know the use cases directly. We can sit here and think all day about it, but
we'd probably be singing it. I mean, and I'm saying we might not be singing a completely different tune, But if we had full on use case of what the land's going to do, what it's going to benefit the holders, what it's going to benefit the game overall, racing, metaverse, not metaverse, but racing, the chicken worlds, everything about it, we might be able to spin it a little better or differently, or, I mean, yeah, have a little less constructive criticism. But like, there is nothing other than just you'll be able to farm crops to help your chicken in races and potentially declass.
Right.
That's
Not to
enough
mention
say 0.13
Crops that I
is the
can't sell
price.
to anyone.
Right.
Or
Not to mention there is a whole section of people that are very worried about the pay to win concept. You know, the true like adding boosts and giving power ups and whatnot. And I'm excited for it because it's an
Yeah.
exciting thing, but we know nothing about it. Like we know that there will be several different things you can do, but we still don't know anything about it. So I haven't had a fully fledged out opinion yet.
And
So
that's why once they get all racing done, once they get the marketplace up, I imagine that crops are going to be a part of that marketplace where you can buy, right? Why don't they come out with the public lands so that we can give this is beta still, right? So us beta users and racers can start using the crops off the public lands and say, okay, well, this works good here. Or maybe we change something, and work out the kinks before they start releasing the land. That way, when they do release the land, we know exactly what land does what. We know all of our use case scenarios, and now we can justify a price point that they're wanting to hit.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sit here and audit their financials. I don't want to,
Right.
I'm not concerned about that. But if you're saying, what you need for the future development is $2.5 million worth of today's ETH price, like you owe a little bit of what that future development is going to look like. Why do you need $2.5 million? Like,
listen,
what's the staffing look like? What's the marketing budget plan?
Right, break it down.
It's going to be something.
But think about it, there's smarter ways that they could come about doing that if they needed it. Wouldn't it make sense then to drop a farmer that you had to use to actually do your crops? Now they've got a reason to generate an extra fund, even though this maybe wouldn't, but they could finagle it that way.
But there's smarter ways even just within the game, especially get the marketplace out and up the royalties a little bit, and keep it, it's still going to be less because you're taking some away from the OpenSea fees. So there's still money coming in that way. Get the game working well, which then makes the market work again. I think Ross said it was like 5 birds sold in the last 2 days. And yes, most of the ones that are being sold right now are either just being listed super low or being accepted on offers. Things aren't really moving towards it, although people are still excited. I mean, how when we ran the buy and fly challenge, that was fun. People got into that. People liked that people were buying and excited about what was coming for the future. And I know the spinning wheel has really put a damper on a lot of things. The timing of this entire month of August has been brutal. I get it, but there are simply things that we could be seeing that could be getting people more engaged and more comfortable with the game, while now they're asking for, a substantial amount of ETH for just one plot.
It's hard to say it was a complete oversight, but that's has to be what it is. I mean, I don't buy the full money argument. I mean, obviously they're a business, a revenue source, but I think they were truly basing it off of what they sold the previous mints at. I don't know of any other thing that justifies them coming up with this
unless there's
price.
information that they know about how they will proceed with this as a business and a platform that people earn money on. Unless there's a serious reason to go, we need X amount of dollars to cover our ass in the future.
Do they have
any type of, like, if we get slammed with any type of gambling type restrictions or things like that? That's the thing. Like, if that's the case, explain that to us, or you know what I mean, or just kind of shed a little light on something like that if that's the necessary route for it, or break down what your thought process was. And everyone has seen the image from the Cluck Norris chat of Deli's formula for the mint price. Well, kind of break that down a little bit further and give us a reason to go, okay, that does kind of make sense, but maybe you should do it not quite. I mean, the point of it is they still need to listen to the community as a whole, because if you can't keep the community behind the project,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a
Yeah.
rough
And
day.
I just don't see where. I mean, I did see. I've said to several different people. I said on the show, for the right price, yeah, I could see a mint out. I mean, we even had on the spaces.
Yeah.
There were people saying like, yeah, I had two ETH set aside, one ETH set aside. I was looking for 20 plots. They're 40 plots. I was gonna snipe the market. Like, there were people excited about this when they thought, okay, 0.04 to 0.06, we could get that sweet spot and make something work here. But 0.13 made it seem like, yeah, you can't get anything done with that.
Let me ask you
That's
guys
what I'm
this.
saying. Like the idea of the tiered mint would still get them money, not quite the 2.4 million that they're looking for, but they're still getting a lot of ETH in the end, and they would be able to make a lot of different parties happy, I think, in a way that goes, okay, we screwed up. We're not screwed up,
Yeah.
but like, we didn't think
I mean,
this through thoroughly, that the price would be this big of
Yeah.
a problem. This is what we're going to do to try and alleviate it.
Let me ask you this. Does the price of the mint affect the price of the crops it produces? Meaning the lower the mint price, the lower the yield of crops it will produce, the higher the mint price, the higher yield of crops it will produce?
Only initially, because once the game sets its own market and once the game starts pumping, and if we do see that the crops really do matter, they will be valuable. And of course, we'll see the amount of people. But that harks back to the original point of how many people do we actually need to sustain that?
That's it.
And they're not here.
That's what I was saying. Because so if there is a, again, I think there is a point where you could justify the price of 0.13 if we have the user base to back that up. Right. And I think that, you could see a price of $5 per bundle of whatever that it yields out, that's what it costs for each boost. Right. You could see something that's like that, where you use it every 10 races or something.
So
that's got to have, it can't be something to where the only thing I'm doing is growing the crops for my own birds.
So Wham brings up a good point in the chat. What if they're going to make the land work like Farmville, where the public pays and sees ads on our land and we make a profit? I really like that idea.
I thought about
but I feel like we are still so far away from that without even any inkling of marketing, advertising and stuff like that. Just seems like an out of
that's
touch
the point
idea.
That can still be what they do, and I hope it is. I hope I can sell my plots for people to farm on it. I hope I can do that, but it doesn't. When? It's not going to be next week. It's not going to be next month. So if that's not the case, then why now? I think that's always kind of been the sentiment of the community, even though we wanted to kind of rally around it. We wanted to try to be excited about the concepts. We liked the art. We liked where this thing was going, but why now? Why now? I can't put my finger on why now. And then of course, why that price? The why now just never synced up and made sense. The price is where I finally thought like it's out of touch. And I think a lot of people feel the same way.
A small section of the community has been asking for land. It is a big item. So I think by them announcing that it was coming, they thought it may bring in more users. I think that is kind of their strategy of doing like internal marketing, if that makes sense.
But even
the flip side of that, though, is if they thought that this price would scare away the flippers, I mean, it's one thing to scare away the flippers, but you scared away the entire community.
The core, you scared away the core. Yeah.
We're all. I know that that was part of the thought process in coming up with this mint price, is what even Apex said a few weeks ago. I can't remember if it was in announcements or in the chat, but they said they wanted to cut. The problem with the first wave and the first chicken drops was the amount of flippers that came through and exited. You're going to have that in any project.
Yes,
but I did respect the idea of trying to figure out a way to combat it, but this is not that way.
Well, and owning one chicken is not the way to whitelist it, because that's $20 and I can buy my land and I can drop my chicken off real quick for $10. So I'm net negative 10 on my wallet.
Here's the reality.
But that's not.
We have an OG roll, right? We have if you were part of the first 3 drops, you should get dropped to 1 land piece.
Well, that there's a legitimate argument for that. There's a legitimate argument for just where is that used? Where is that incentive for us being here when we were?
That's
But
the
if
other
they
thing.
Races make
If this
sense.
is the
Yeah.
price that they were going to go for, they sure as shit should be sending one to each wallet.
And you know
owns a
what?
chicken.
If they dropped us each one, I wouldn't mind a 0.133 because now that one that I dropped has got at least a mint floor of
But
0.133.
the other problem though you run into with that though is when you send out that many pieces of land to a bunch of wallets that are possibly dormant, you do run the risk of tanking everything because they just got free liquidity.
It has to be
Even better.
connected
You're
to
right.
racing. It can't be connected
Yep.
to how long you've held.
You're right.
Because there are
I
people
agree.
who have had to change wallets for security reasons or whatever else is involved in that. No,
So you
no
go
fault
back
of
to
their
those
own.
500 wallets that have ran over 500 or whatever races.
Mm-hmm.
I like your idea too of giving a month. In fact, make it 800 races and now see what races turn over within the next month of who tries to get their coops to 800 races.
Mm-hmm.
Right, to get a land drop.
That's the thing. If you set the price low enough and you give the incentive that say you need to race this many times,
Would you want
to
it low if they sent you a free one? Would you want it low if they sent you a free one?
No, because
you would be
all
okay
you're
with it
handing
higher,
people
right?
That's the thing.
Well, send me the free one that I earned.
Right, that's my point.
That's
yes,
it,
we've earned, but you would want the drop price to be at least a relatively high. I'm not asking for it to be 0.04 if I'm being dropped one, right?
I'm not worried. I'm not worried too much about the drop price in just the sense of like being too low, because there's plenty of projects that start low, and then once the obvious value, once the obvious value is shown, it gets right back where it should. Right.
Say
it
that
has to mint out. Like minting
has to
out
mint out. If they are sitting on the market unminted, that's what's killed more projects than anything.
Yeah.
If we have unminted land, our game is going in the wrong direction fast.
So do you think, and I'm just throwing out, say that we did the thing, let's say they did the 800 races. I kind of like that. I'm just throwing out a number. They give you a month. You have to, every coop that gets to 800 races, they get one drop. And then after that, do you think 0.06 is a reasonable amount, or is that too high, too low? Like,
I wanted to bring up this point. I think I'm very curious what you guys' thoughts are on this. If they would have come out with something in the 0.06 to 0.08 range, are we doing this tonight?
No,
I think you're still not
as bad. I don't think
it's mixed. It's still.
I think you're still going to have this. I think you're still going to have people that didn't really want the land drop anyways,
right?
And they're going to come out and they're going to say this is way more than what I was definitely going to spend.
But I think
then you're going to even have the ones that did want the land that they're going to say it was too much for them too. So I still think maybe not as much, but yes.
But 0.06, I think 0.06 makes people kind of,
if you've got a free one, that changes our mindset on what now, in my mind.
Well, on that free earned one, I just want to repeat this line again. And I know I'm the copy pasta guy that just points out the things that were directly said, but here it is. Now we have a game with thousands of races and hundreds of thousands of dollars in payout, just a much more solid base. And who did that? The racers. And that's the thing. Give us that benefit for being the reason there are hundreds of thousands of dollars in payouts and thousands of races. Like, we are the core community that has literally kept this thing running.
That's literally like 200 less than 200 people.
So let's be real. That payout number is kind of a sham number.
It is because it's just
it's not a profit number.
Back and forth and money.
It's not a profit number.
It's a good number.
And in and out.
It's a sexy number from the marketing standpoint.
But you know what?
But it doesn't mean shit to the person that comes in and they are losing money on their first bird that they buy.
Right. None of us made hundreds of thousands of dollars.
The only reason I've lost money, but I'm a lot closer to even than some. And the only reason for that is that I have 17 birds and I ran all of them. Okay. And maybe if I didn't run some, I'd probably be closer to even than not. But really, you need a good handful of birds to even find one that's going to be a profitable bird.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I don't know. I still think the idea of saying you need to have X amount of races, and you could even still open that window to mint the first wave. So say you put it at, like I said again, 4,333 pieces of land, if you hit X amount of races and by the time the drop happens, you have a 12-hour window to mint at 0.042. Once that 12-hour window is shut, whether it mints out at 4,333 or not, it rolls into the next tier and so on. And then it's open to all holders.
When do you do the tier 1 drop? September?
No, I think you do tier 1 drop after you have addressed the issues with races.
Okay.
And
so
we start getting some more marketable games.
When
But hopefully still this year.
Let's be realistic here. Let's do it, because how long do you think it's going to be before we get racing and a marketplace up that is a sustainable little, just in those two things? How long until those things are, I won't even say perfected, but semi-perfect?
I mean, if that was the main focus, I think within 2 months that's right.
Okay. So, and then you're going to give it another month for the notification of the drop. So we are in January.
Getting there. It's getting there.
You might as well wait until people get their tax returns back and push it back to March.
The switch, and by Monday next week, they go, okay, we're pivoting. We're going to do this. We're going to work on getting the racing working. We're going to get the web working better. We're going to get the mobile working better. We're going to get races or the pallets buffed where we like them. And then if that takes 1 to 2 months, that's fine. And then you drop the mint price. We're looking at November, December.
And they need to cut the shit with the price point of the races. We need more of the lower point races so we can start to generate. They do not get paid their rake until a race fills. Yeah. So why are they okay with even a $2 race sitting there to take 10 hours to fill when they could have filled 30, 50-cent races in that same period? They got to get smarter with how they generate.
And there is an argument to be made that if you have more of the lower races available and a more readied set of users that understand their chickens, they'll be more willing to go ahead and jump into the next one. Just like, all right, I have a ton of data on this bird. I'm feeling froggy. I'm going for a $3 race, going for $5, $8, $10, $20. So it's there, but people need to be more confident in what
those should be showcases. Those should be one-off events, right? And to be honest,
get rid of them, but I do agree.
I don't think you should get rid of them either.
30, 50-cent races.
That's all. If you just have more of the other ones will fill faster because
there should always
birds
be
they care about. Yeah.
In every class, a 50-cent race that populates one after another.
Because that's the problem. If the majority of all the birds in the entire ecosystem are in C and D. And when the price point to get into a C or D race is $1.50 or more, that hurts.
Yeah, it doesn't. No races run, so they're not making any rake because no races are filling. We're not engaging in the game because we're not able to run any of our birds because we're all waiting for that 50-cent race to pop up.
And we want it. We've asked for it. We want it. It's.
But to me, that's an easy change that they could make tomorrow.
Yeah.
And
Allrad also said maybe improve the 2-hour cooldown. Zed lets you enter 3 at a time. You know,
the only problem I have with that. The only problem I have with that is
I'm not a fan of that.
Is when you get birds that D class. Now I know this is part of the game, but it does keep those monsters from entering like every single race in that class before. I don't know,
but as
maybe it speeds it up to where it doesn't happen and they class back up right away.
But do we have those monsters that regardless of distance or terrain, you don't stand a chance against them?
I do feel like talents have kind of started to, even that out a little bit. There's some good birds out there, but I mean, even
on their courses.
Right. But
that's not going to be coming.
I'm pretty sure
not coming
I see,
up constantly.
Babs and Groundhog Day in every single race, and I can't.
Well, he's a snake.
So. What class?
But in what class? What class is that?
B, I think, and
So then they can't be winning
class.
Or no, and C. I've seen those birds down in C.
They're going to eventually.
So they're in C and D. So they're losing. They're losing races if they're in C and D.
Yeah.
And B.
Yeah, but then they're taking my money from C. I'm just giving Wham shit.
Run your birds better. It's not Wham's fault.
We don't need it to. We don't need to be able to enter our birds every 3 times. I just need 50-cent races so I can enter. I have 17 birds. I don't need to be able to enter the same bird 3 times. I just need to be able to enter 5 birds in low class races, low price point races.
I think it's both. I mean, but honestly, I do think both things can be true and can work. I do think that you can.
It is annoying though, because they did say, "Oh, we ran this tournament and we did notice that when ETH dropped, how many races went off when it was 30 cents?" Well, why wasn't then when ETH went up, they didn't adjust that down so that we can generate the number of races?
Yeah.
It seems.
I don't know. I understand that they have their priorities, and I understand that there are things.
But that doesn't even make sense from a money-making standpoint. Are you going to sell one item at $50?
No,
or
and
are you
I
going
get
to
it.
sell it
It's
50 at the dollar?
If they have to take, I don't know what it takes to retool the ARG as far as pricing and all that, how long it takes. I imagine it probably doesn't take long, but it has to pause the racing, and I don't know what that would do to everything. But it just they've been working on all these other things that they've talked about. I just feel like that's something they've put aside, but I think that does need to be addressed. Now, we're running at about 1 hour and 35 minutes here, and I feel like we've been running around in circles as far as how we feel about the price of land. I feel we've gotten our points across as far as how we feel, how the community kind of feels. Now, obviously, we can't hit every comment or thought on why they feel the way they do feel, but I feel like we've talked through a lot of things. If anything, and the devs do listen to this, I hope that they can take some constructive criticism out of this and not think that we're just slamming them this whole hour and a half, because this wasn't meant to be a slam session. This was more just to get the discussion out, hear the community's ideas, and kind of vet it out there and just
go, Dave.
Go ahead.
I think it's important to say, and I think almost everything I've read today, the reaction feels like it comes from a place of giving a shit about this game.
Dave cursed.
And wanting the best. No, I'm Dutch and I grew up on a farm, so that's allowed.
You made Dave curse.
But dude, you're 100% right. The sentiment isn't a negative in the fact of it's the people don't care. It's these people care very deeply about this game, and they want to see it succeed. And when these things come up,
I think a lot of people got baffled today. A lot of people kind of got
speechless. I was speechless for hours. I didn't know what to say.
Yeah, when Daniel was like 3:30, we're doing a spaces. I'm like, man, my thoughts are not loaded up yet. And I was like, son of it. Everything went fine, but still, I needed a minute. I needed a minute to process all of this, and I always really try to engage into, okay, what am I missing? What am I not thinking about? How have I overlooked this? Test my strong convictions. Where is it? And I got nothing today. Nothing on this one. And I think that sentiment's been pretty much, around for everybody else. We have some interesting days ahead of us. I can't imagine we will go radio silent tomorrow after all this. I know nothing, and I don't know where that's coming. I sure as hell hope not. Hopefully we get some information from them. I think they do know one thing very clearly. We'd like to see the game more functional, and the price was too high. And both those things need to be addressed, and addressed quick, because it is a pivotal point to drop land like this, because a lot of lands, how many projects have dropped lands and it meant nothing, it did nothing, they sat there and died, or they minted and then died. So it is important, and I know this land has a use case, and we need to know about that too. So between detailed roadmap, understanding what we're paying for, and letting us know exactly how they intend to get more of those birds raced, more people here to buy the birds that are sitting there on the market, and of course the functionality is of the utmost importance. I think those are some of the most important things that we've touched on tonight. And if we missed anything, let us know. I'm sure this is still going to be a topic next week when we talk. Maybe we'll fire up another spaces that went really well. With Daniel fired that one up. I enjoyed hearing from some other people that were hanging around. Maybe we'll actually plan one out so people can get their voices heard, so it's not just impromptu, so they can be set up and ready. I'd be fine with that. And just talk with everybody and get more of a feel, and we'll reconvene once we know more.
Yeah. Just as a disclaimer, all that I've said on this podcast, I don't know shit. I don't know how hard it is
We
to
know.
develop this
Just in
stuff.
general.
I don't know how hard it is to do any of
You
this
throw
shit.
that disclaimer in at about hour
I'm
40.
just talking shit out of my ass.
My name
right.
is Blake, and I don't know shit.
We love all of y'all. We
don't
just
know
want the
shit.
game
I'm
to
just here to
succeed.
talk shit and yell at everybody.
Yeah.
And they made Dave curse, but not really.
Anyways, like I said, I feel like we've hit a majority of the concerns, the thoughts, the ideas, this whole ordeal today. I feel like this whole discussion has been real constructive, and just seeing the comments in the chat as we've been going on for this hour and a half, everybody feels the same way. We're all passionate about this. We all want it to succeed. It's just disappointment today, to say it in a word, to nicely word. and I think they can do better, to say it in the least.
Yeah.
And that's not, like I said, that's not a knock on this team. Like I said, I still trust this team. I believe in them, but today was a little
The
Still-
good news is we have the 500 of us that are paying attention. We are making our voices heard. There's a lot of projects out there that they would come out with this. Nobody would say anything publicly, and then the project fails. So the fact that we are sticking together, and as long as we continue to do that, the game will succeed at the end of the day. It may take longer than we all originally thought, which I think we're already there at this point anyways.
Yeah. But yeah, still, I think the overall sentiment still bullish on the game.
Yeah.
Still bullish on what's coming. But just terribly disappointed and baffled by what happened today and how everything went down. But we are also
Sambo. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we are also very ready for a change and whatever they have to throw at us, and hoping that this can turn into something very positive, whether that is pushing it off till next year and focusing on getting the game's functionality proper, or otherwise, and still moving forward. I do think that there's a good possibility we are looking towards moving forward. They were leaning towards it anyway, and moving to pushing it forward and not having it be done now. But a lot to figure out in the next couple of days.
Like I said, I have no problem with them moving it forward. Like I said, I still like the idea of doing a tiered drop, like I explained earlier in the show. I just think there are better ways they could go about it, and I hope to hear more from them going forward. I guess we'll find out more this week. We'll see how this week plays out. It's time for us to step off the soapbox and wrap this shit up. So we appreciate y'all stopping by. I am at Grateful Coops from the Coop Collective. We are in the Chicken Derby Discord. You can find us. You can chat us. You can hit us up. Talk to us about any questions you got. I have at Pecking Order Racing, at Water Racing, at MBF Express. We are the Coop Collective. This has been Cock Talk. We hope it gets better next week. We love you all. Have a great night. See you next time.
We love most of y'all.
Yeah, there you go. That's fairly accurate.
Tyler, Yuri Prohaska.
What?
Do you know who that is?
We're still on air.
Do you know who that is? It's okay.